Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is today, and welcome back. I hope your week is unfolding oh so beautifully. We've got some serious business to attend to. You may have seen from the title, criminal charges against a Congresswoman. Wow, we're going to look at that one today. La Monica, out in New Jersey. This is Alina Abba territory. So we got the complaint, which is now submitted here by Homeland Security Investigations against La Monica, and a lot of reaction to this. All right. So we've got people, Congress people, senators crying about it. Bunch of reaction on this, even from La Monica herself. She went on CNN and she's explaining herself why she had to use her giant belly to try to assault ICE agents outside of a facility. Hakeem Jeffries was talking about it. We got the Attorney General out there from New Jersey who's weighing in on it. And so we'll spend a little time going through this because reaction, even Trump was talking about this today when he was over on Capitol Hill. We got Tom Homan, lots of people talking about it. It's a big deal. We got a sitting congressperson charged with a crime for breaking the law, and no one is above the law. So we'll go through the complaint. There's a bunch of photos in here, which we're excited about right there. Shout out to that FBI or the Homeland Security agent who is attaching the photos in there. So we'll go through all of that, and we're excited about it. Then we're going to turn our attention to this judge, Edward M. Chen. And Edward Chen is the judge who just got told by the Supreme Court 8-1. We covered this yesterday, read through the full thing. I'd encourage you to read it because it was a nice victory. We went through the final reply from Trump's Department of Justice, and we saw what the Supreme Court did. 8-0 said, Edward Chen, you have no power to do this. You're out of control. And what this judge did is double down on it. So just like Boasberg, just like Zenas, this judge is going to be holding on to the case, demanding Trump comply with discovery demands, and theoretically hold Trump and the administration in contempt after he just got told by the Supreme Court 8-1, with only Ketanji joining him. So we'll go through this because we got a couple of filings. Trump's DOJ submitted this. They said, hey, Judge, you just got backhanded there, bro. You want to stop this insanity? And the lawyers for the National TPS Alliance that just lost, they sent in another request, another demand, and the judge is basically granting it. So we'll read through what he said there. A lot of reaction today. Rubio gave Chris Van Hollen and the illegal lovers the proverbial backhand in court in Congress today, which was quite enjoyable. So we'll watch that. We got Ron Johnson also there talking about these border encounters. And what I love about this so much is that this is Senator Lankford sitting right there. Senator Lankford is that horrible senator from Oklahoma who tried to codify right in the final moments of the election permanent illegal alien immigration in our country. And he's sitting there having to look at this chart. Look at it. Don't sit there and look away. Make eye contact with that chart, Lankford. All right, so we'll talk about that. Then we got this story, which is the Mayor Johnson of Chicago, who is apparently part of the best race on the planet. In fact, planet Earth's most generous race. Wow. That's why he hires so many black people, because they're so generous, according to him, on the whole planet. And what's fun about this is that kind of strange to say you're only going to hire black people if you're the mayor, even if they are the world's most generous people. And what's happening now is he's under investigation for that very racist statement. Harmeet Dillon, who's over at the Civil Rights Division now, launching an inquiry into this. And Johnson came out and he looks a little nervous. He was out today. Look at him. Oh, he's like, oh, yeah, you're under investigation because you're a racist. So you want to answer some questions about this. And then finally, we'll see what the latest is with Fannie and Nathan, because they're apparently still indicting each other. And it's Taco Tuesday. And, you know, they wanted to get some tacos, baby. And so Fannie and Nathan Wade are getting some tacos or pupusas. We don't really know. So we've got a great stream planned ahead. Thank you for being here. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being amazing membos. We had a great members only stream this morning. If you're not a membo, we'd love it if you became a membo, because we do streams in the mornings and on Saturdays. We have a great community there on YouTube and on Locals. And it's a great way to go a little bit deeper and connect even harder, which is what we want. All right, so we got a great stream plan. Thanks for becoming membos, and thanks for sticking around. If you're a membo, you can stick around for the after party. There are instructions as we close out the stream. All right, so now, without any further ado, the tubes are warm. Looks like we're coming in loud and clear. It's nice for once. All right, so let's get to it. Here is the latest with the Congresswoman. The big-bellied Congresswoman, known as LaMonica McIver from New Jersey, has now been charged with a crime. Several crimes, you can see here. Assault, criminal complaint coming out, and we've got count 1 and count 2 that will parse through, drafted and sent in to the District of New Jersey, federal court there in front of the Judge Honorable Stacey D. Adams. And if you're not familiar with LaMonica Ivor, here's a quick photograph before we jump into it. You may recognize her from this belly, which is here about to destroy this innocent agent who's right here. He's first got the elbow right there. See, right in the back. Then comes the belly, the old 1-2 combo. Put somebody's eye out with that thing. So you can see this is what the complaint looks like here, and lots of reaction here. LaMonica came out. She's saying, I'm innocent. So is my belly. Don't indict me with 2 counts for those. And lots of reaction from others, including Nancy Pelosi and Bang Bang Eric Swalwell, who is saying this is a red line and you guys are in big trouble now. We'll see what he wants to do about it. But here is the criminal complaint filed against LaMonica McIver. Seen here, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security investigation special agent is called Robert Tanzi, now duly sworn, stating the following is true and correct to the best of his knowledge and belief. And he works with Homeland Security, HSI, the same folks who were all over January 6th in the crowd that we'll probably never know about. He says here that he signed this affidavit by telephone, attested to this by telephone, and the judge says, well, it sounds like probable cause. Okay, so now your complaint is accepted by the court. 2 counts. 1, assaulting, resisting, and impeding certain officers or employees with her belly. Says on or about May 9th in Essex County, New Jersey, and elsewhere, the defendant, Congresswoman LaMonica McIver, I think she identifies as a woman, I'm not positive on that, but we'll just presume, said, did forcibly assault, resist, oppose, impede, intimidate, and interfere with the person designated as a protectee under the law, a Homeland Security HSI agent known as Victim 1 that we'll learn more about coming up. Victim 1 was engaged in and on account of performance of his official duties trying to protect the facility, and then the belly came in and obliterated his backside. So in violation of the law, count 2, another assault for Victim 2. This one was an ICE Customs Enforcement deportation officer. Same charge, assaulting with her elbow and belly. Assaulting, resisting, opposing, impeding, intimidating, all the things, right? So you might go in here and say, well, assault is like, assault is a very broad criminal term. Different states define it differently, but it's generally an offensive touch. But you might say, well, it was not an offensive touch. Okay, well, was her actions then impeding? Was her actions then interfering? So like you might say the physical touch is not the biggest component of this, but it's not only about the physical touch. It could be any one of those other things, as described in the complaint as she abused victim number 2. So here's the background. Now, I, Robert Tanzi, am a special agent with the Newark Division of Homeland Security called HSI. The information contained in this complaint is based upon my personal knowledge, as well as information obtained from other sources, including statements made or reported by various witnesses with knowledge of the relevant facts. B, my review of publicly available information, which we've seen some of that here. We got the video queued up too. My review of the evidence, including video surveillance. And because this complaint is being submitted for a limited purpose, I have not set forth every fact and I know concerning this investigation. We just have to get through a very, very low bar. Probable cause that there's a crime that occurred. Don't need to prove the actual occurrence of the crime beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the next standard that comes much later. This is just the basic, just getting started here. Where the contents of documents and the actions and the statements of others are reported, they are reported in substance and in part, except where otherwise indicated. Now, where I assert that an event took place on a particular date, I'm asserting it took place on or about that date, saying, Here are the facts. LaMonica McIver is a sitting congresswoman representing New Jersey's 10th congressional district. Delaney Hall currently operates as a federal immigration detention facility. ICE uses the Delaney Hall federal immigration facility for federal operations. Makes sense. On or about May 9th, the Congresswoman McIver, she arrived at Delaney Hall in Newark because she's going to go fight the patriarchy of Trump, allegedly to conduct congressional oversight inspection. Right. The visit took place in tandem with an immigration protest rally at Delaney Hall in an unsecured area of the facility. And this has been their nice little excuse. I'm just doing congressional oversight. Okay, well, why were you there with maniacs who were causing a ruckus? Perimeter cameras show that when the security gate of Delaney Hall opened momentarily to allow a vehicle to enter into the secure area of the facility, McIver and two other members of Congress moved quickly inside the security area as the gate closed, trying to race in there before the gate shut. Now, once the group entered the secured area, the mayor arrived thereafter at the facility and was told he could not enter without authorization. However, the mayor returned with members of his security detail and was able to enter inside the gate because the guard was under the impression that the mayor was part of the congressional delegation. Now, while McIver, the congresswoman, and the mayor were in the secured area of that facility, a Homeland Security agent, and now known as Victim 1, approached the mayor and said, "Mayor, I'm with Homeland. You're not part of Congress. Get out. Leave the facility's secure area." The Homeland agent spent approximately 5 minutes repeatedly ordering the mayor, who at this point is committing an insurrection, not following orders, to leave, and issued multiple warnings. "Mayor, if you don't leave, I'm going to arrest you." Now, McIver and the other congresspersons overheard this conversation, and they're screaming at this agent. "Hey, you can't, I think you are. Here's the mayor." Victim 1 explained to them, the Homeland Security. He said, "Hey, Congress people are different, okay? The mayor, not allowed. Congress might have lawful authority to be there, but the mayor did not, okay? The guy knows his stuff." So after numerous warnings to leave and numerous warnings of potential arrest, the Homeland agent announced that he was going to place the mayor under arrest. Okay, I'll give you like 10 warnings now. You can't be here, so get out. The Congresswoman interjected, yelling, "Hell no! Hell no! Hell no!" writes this agent. The agent ordered the mayor to put his hands behind his back and displayed his handcuffs. McIver and other members of Congress surrounded the mayor and prevented the Homeland agent from handcuffing him and taking him into custody, impeding, insurrecting, lawful order. Now, McIver initially remained inside the secure area as the mayor was then moved outside the gate. Once outside, the HSI agents attempted to handcuff again the mayor. Then at that time, McIver hurried outside towards the agents and attempted to thwart the arrest as others yelled, "Circle the mayor," right? They're having their little insurrection party over there. McIver faced the mayor and placed her arms around him. She and others encircled him in a human shield effort to prevent the agent from completing the arrest that was initiated lawfully in the secure area. McIver, the Congresswoman's attempts to thwart the arrest included, but not limited to, the following acts, right? So it's not just her giant belly bopping somebody in the back. It's also these things. 14, McIver slammed her forearm into the body of the HSI agent right there. A uniformed agent. She also, by the way, they arrested people on January 6th and put them in solitary confinement, called them violent terrorist insurrectionists, raided their homes and all the things. So I wonder if that's going to happen here. A uniformed agent. She also reached out and tried to restrain V1 by forcibly grabbing him as well. Now, following the arrest, the Congresswoman also pushed an ICE officer and used each of her forearms to forcibly strike V2 as she returned inside to the secure area of the facility. Now, some representative stills of McIver's forcible contact with the agents and officers are below. Look at that. That elbow. Belly's not out yet. She's saving that for round 2. If there's non-compliance. There it comes. Comes at you fast. So victim 2 gets popped with the left shoulder. Then the belly comes out, right shoulder. She means business. Now here's another aerial camera still frame. You'll notice here. Look at this elbow, this volitional act coming across, raised, dropping down. What a monster! Says here's another body camera still frame from victim 1. See her here, and another one just going absolutely wild. You can see here's another one. This gentleman is saying, stop right there. Congresswoman, you don't have the power to, and she's now up off her toes, getting aggressive. Now, the officer writes, the above are instances of McIver's multiple attempts to forcibly assault, resist, oppose, impede, intimidate, and interfere with the agents attempting to take the mayor into custody. And so we've got a couple of different angles here. We got that that footage that looks like body cam from somebody on their Axon. And then you've got, this looks like public surveillance footage from another, just camera on a building, another cop's Axon there. And so multiple angles of this thing. And we got it queued up right here as well. And this is what it looked like in real time. This clip came over from House Judiciary and from Eric Dougherty over on X. Door opened. They're racing in there. Look at her. Look at her. Insurrecting him right there. Whoa. Pushing him to get in the building. Wow. Wow, this is like the downfall of American democracy. Good thing she's being prosecuted. Hopefully she's arrested and thrown into solitary confinement for 3 years. We'll see if that works out or not. Now, we got the criminal complaint. We read through it. That's all that there is on that. And the docket is quite light as it stands. We've not seen her. This is the docket. The only thing on there is the criminal complaint. Have not seen her lawyers file a notice of appearance yet. Have not seen any court dates scheduled yet, an initial appearance or an arraignment or any of those things. Alina Abba gave us some background on why this happened. She says, look, today, my office charged Congresswoman McIver with violation of Title 18 U.S. Code for assault, impeding and interfering with law enforcement, and the mayor actually got his charges dropped. Now, I take my obligations as U.S. attorney seriously, says Alina Abba. Says, I understand the responsibility that comes with my position, and I will work diligently to uphold the law and deliver justice to the people of New Jersey. After extensive consideration, we have agreed to dismiss Mayor Baraka's misdemeanor charge of trespass just for the sake of moving forward. In the spirit of public interest, I have invited the mayor to tour Delaney Hall. The government has nothing to hide at this facility. I will personally accompany the mayor so he can see that firsthand, saying the citizens of New Jersey deserve unified leadership so we can work to keep our state safe. Now, the dismissal against the mayor, though, is not the end of the matter. As we saw, congressional oversight is an important constitutional function and one that I fully support. However, that is not at issue in this case. Representative LaMonica McIver assaulted, impeded, and interfered with law enforcement. And that conduct cannot be overlooked by the chief federal law enforcement official in New Jersey. And it's my constitutional obligation to ensure that our federal law enforcement is protected when executing their duties. I have persistently made efforts to address these issues without bringing criminal charges and have given McIver every opportunity to come talk to us, meet with us, come to a resolution, but she has declined because she's going to love this, right? She's going to be like running for president along with AOC, like AOC McIver here, running for president. So she's not going to cooperate and go say I'm sorry or come to some sort of a plea deal like Jamal Fire Alarm Bowman did. Not at all. She's going to dig her heels in and fight. She's got a lot of weight to anchor her down there too. Says no one is above the law, politicians or otherwise. It is the job of this office to uphold justice impartially, regardless of who you are. Now we will let the justice system work. No one's above the law. And it's pretty incredible that Alina Abba has been in office for like 2 weeks and she's already charging people who are breaking the law. A lot of other people have been in positions of power here in the Trump administration who promised us a lot of stuff. But Alina Abba delivers. As we've said here, not just beauty. Now, criminal prosecutions too. So Alina Abba bringing it home, and Kristi Noem has her back. Says, after a thorough review of the video footage of Delaney Hall and a full investigation from Homeland, Alina Abba has made the determination to charge Congresswoman LaMonica McIver for assaulting law enforcement. No one is above the law, says Kristi. If any person, regardless of political party, influence, or status, assaults a law enforcement officer, as we witness McIver do, you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. We thank our brave ICE law enforcement officers for their service to this great nation. Thank you, Kristi Noem, for saying that. Eagle Ed Martin also said, no one is above the law, even Congress people like LaMonica. Now she's out. She responded to this. She says, this is my statement on the charges filed against me. She says, earlier this month, I joined my colleagues to inspect the treatment of the ICE detainees in my district. We were fulfilling our lawful Congress oversight responsibilities, as many Congress people have done before. And our visit should have been peaceful and short, except you tried to break into the facility by shoving your way in past the gates. Congressional oversight. That's the after the fact excuse. Instead, ICE agents created an unnecessary and unsafe confrontation when they chose to arrest Mayor Baraka, who was warned many times to go. The charges against me are purely political. They mischaracterize and distort my actions and are meant to criminalize and deter oversight. No, they're not. We watched what you did. This administration will never stop me from working for the people in our district and standing up for what's right. I am thankful for the outpouring of support I've received. I look forward to the truth being laid out in court. So she was also on with CNN. Here is what she sounded like when she was out explaining herself.
Would you have done anything differently?
No, I would not have. Once again, we showed up there to do a job, Kate. We were there for an oversight visit. We have done this before. You know, me, Congresswoman Bonnie Watson-Coleman, and Congressman Rob Menendez was just at a facility just a couple of weeks ago, not too far from this location, where we had an oversight visit, and we were a little bit delayed, but not, confronted or was in the middle of a chaos to do so. I think, number one, we have an obligation to do so. We have to show up and do our jobs. And at the end of the day, the reason why we were there is because we wanted to make sure this facility was up to par, that it was clean, that it was safe, and that the detainees there were, given due process, that they were able to use the phone, that they were able to speak to their legal representation, which we found out was not happening.
Very different attitude on display on CNN than what we saw outside the facility, where she's elbowing ICE agents left and right, trying to break into the facility because the gate temporarily opened.
But that was our reason. So despite, what Republicans are saying, like, about us, trying to break people out of jail, that's untrue. We were not there to do that. We were there to conduct an oversight visit, which
nobody thinks you're going to break anybody out, but you were impeding with the operation of the facility. And there was you were not going to break anybody out. Maybe the other people out there were. Or maybe you were. I have a question about whether there's logs or communications. Do they have to notify them they're coming? Can they just pop in? Congress people just pop in? Do they notify, hey, we're going to come just do a check so that they can facilitate their entrance or entryway? Because you don't even know who all the Congress people are. So we're going to learn a lot more about this. We're looking forward to it.
After all of this, the chaos, Kate, they gave us a tour. We were all of this. We broke in, we assaulted people, all of these things that, Haba is saying and Republicans are saying.
Congresswoman, you are now facing a federal charge, though. Are you afraid of what's going to transpire now?
I mean, it's super unfortunate, Kate, that we have come to this point, in America, that this is what we see happening.
That we've been invaded by 15 million to 30 million illegals, and we're trying to get them out.
To leaders who are trying to do their jobs, rather it's the mayor of the largest city, rather it's a judge. We've seen this administration come after and attack, leaders for doing their jobs. It's political intimidation, and I will not be intimidated. I expect to continue to do my...
Yeah, political intimidation is what you just tried to do to those ICE agents when you were outside hitting everybody with your giant belly. So now you got charged with a crime. Hakeem Jeffries not happy about it. He says, here's our statement on this. Says the criminal charge against LaMonica is morally bankrupt. Says we have a constitutional responsibility for oversight. She visited the detention center. They didn't assault anyone. We watched it, but were themselves aggressively mistreated by illegally masked individuals, saying that bunch of people were on a tour. There's no credible evidence she engaged in any activity. She would have been permitted to tour the facility had she done anything wrong. Well, they had to. She is a congressperson. And so they let her do that. Once the assault was over, they complied with her power, right? So they didn't deny her anything. They're not upset about the fact that she came to come and do oversight. She's allowed to come and oversee things. They would have let her in. Even the person who was there, according to the complaint, said, Congress people are different. Mayor, not you, but you would be yes. No one has a concern about that, go do your oversight, Hakeem. Oversee away, have a ton of fun. But you can't break and enter. You can't impede the other agents from doing their jobs. You're not a little queen diva of the whole facility just because you show up there. And that's what the point is. You can't do that stuff. You can act like a law and order abiding congressperson, and you can come in even after you broke the law. They still let you in, but you got to pay the penalties for the assault. Now, she's raising a bunch of money on this, right? Our thesis was this will elevate her status, obviously. And Jennifer Van Laar, who's over on X, grabbed this one, got the email on this. And LaMonica's already sending this out to people on her listserv. Says, I was charged by the Trump administration because I was doing my job for engaging in congressional oversight, right? This is a first. It's a flashing red light for our democracy. Yeah. I went to a nice facility to conduct oversight, but it's clear that Trump doesn't want transparency. This is baseless. We must stand up together. Give me some money. Now, the Attorney General in New Jersey also came out with a statement saying, charging a member of Congress, and Alina Abba would do well to remember this. They all basically sound the same. We're mad about stuff, so it's not even that interesting. Nancy Pelosi, baseless charges, okay? Thank you, LaMonica, for defending all of our rights as members of Congress, from Nancy Pelosi. So she responded to this. The mayor, who was not ultimately charged, said this, I am glad that U.S. Attorney Alina has agreed that this case should be dismissed against him. I've had strong relationships with prior U.S. attorneys, and I'm sure this mayor and Alina, they probably had a conversation with this. Like, let's just talk about it. Like, what's up? And we can cooperate. Now, as to Delaney Hall, I'm going to continue to advocate for humane treatment of detainees. I'll continue to press the facility to make sure it's compliant. But I understand that U.S. Attorney Alina has chosen to charge LaMonica, saying McIver is a daughter of Newark, past Newark Council president, a former student of mine, and a dear friend. And I stand with LaMonica, and I expect her to be fully vindicated. Todd Blanche is standing by Alina Abba, saying, I echo what Alina Abba has made clear. If you assault a federal law enforcement officer, it's not going to be tolerated. And they were the same people who were screeching at us about January 6th and the attack on, they gave that cop that they said died on January 6th, who didn't die on January 6th, they gave him like a state funeral. Remember that? That's how much fake love they have for cops. After the George Floyd summer, where they hated cops, then all of a sudden they love cops again because it's just politically expedient for them. But this administration will always protect those who work tirelessly to keep America safe. Signed by Todd Blanche. Now, Stinky Eric Swalwell, who made Bang Bang with Fang Fang and Chinese Spies back, he says a red line has been crossed. And he's not talking about intercourse with a CCP agent. Says Trump is prosecuting his political enemies in Congress. This is just the beginning. I sure hope so there, Eric. We must take whatever we've done before to show dissent and go one rung higher. He's going to sleep with more spies? He says, save your BS documents on this one, Alina. You'll need them when you testify. He's attacking Alina Abba now, and he's saying bad words to her. Wow. So here's what Stinky Swalwell said over on the cable. Short clip here, because it sounds like they're going to continue to show up at these facilities.
In jail for an indefinite amount of time, we can't trust them. So we have to do our oversight duties. And she was in the right to go and do that. And I promise you, there's going to be more unnoticed visits by my colleagues where they show up, and they better be let in.
Or what? You're going to take your belly out too and slap some people over the head with it? We'll see if that happens or not. Now, Kristi Noem got asked about this today. Short clip here from Homeland Security. She says, what happened at Delaney Hall was not oversight, okay? It was a political stunt that put the safety of our law enforcement agents, our staff, and our detainees at risk. Behavior was lawless. Members of Congress are not above the law and cannot illegally break into detention facilities.
Detention facilities.
Yes, they can conduct oversight, but Senator, what I would ask is that they understand that that doesn't mean they could show up with a mob with the intention to break in and assault law enforcement officers. That's what happened at Delaney Hall last week.
You're familiar
is that those individuals and those members of Congress were surrounded by criminals, creating criminal and perpetuating criminal acts.
You understand that
but when
they were
you show up
already
and ask
within
for a tour,
the
we've
facility.
facilitated every single tour that every member of Congress has wanted. We've always done that.
Right.
And we have to, when we have a tour, also make sure that we've addressed security concerns and have enough staff and all of that. And we were accommodating that when those individuals showed up and they decided instead to break in.
Yeah, and they can't do that. They gave her the tour. Why'd she have to assault the officers if all she wanted was a tour. So Tom Homan was also talking about this. The border czar, Gunther Eagleman, clipped this one for us. Here's what Tom Homan said today.
To be there and to go in.
Well, look, they have a right to be there for oversight, but there's a proper way to do it. Forcing your way in the facility, putting hands on an ICE officer is not the way to do it. No. So I think she was out of line. I've seen the videotape. I've seen 6 or 7 different videotapes. They show her acting unprofessionally. These are the same people who, for 4 years, are saying President Trump wasn't above the law. Well, either is she. There's a line you can't cross, and I think she crossed it. Now, I'll leave it up to the Alina Habba, the prosecutor who's handling this case, to prove the case, but the video makes it clear to me that she wasn't being professional that day. She certainly didn't act like a member of Congress. She certainly could have requested a tour. They give tours all the time, and if she got the tour, and many people have had the tour since, they've seen a grade A facility, the highest detention standards in the industry, that puts to shame any facility, county or state, that New Jersey has. So it was. I think it was politics over public safety. That's a facility where the worst of the worst are housed. We can't lose control of that facility. For her actions, cause a ruckus at that facility, makes that facility unsafe.
Did she cause the ruckus, though? Because you acknowledge that she has the right to be there. You put out the administration put out a document back in February saying members of Congress will be allowed to go in. They said that they had to wait for hours. And I want to ask you about the word that you very carefully used, which is unprofessional. Even if you believe she was unprofessional, did you see something in that tape that suggested she was criminal? Is there a tape that we haven't seen? Because the charging documents suggest that she somehow assaulted 2 of the ICE agents there. I did not see that in that tape.
Screenshots of elbows.
Well, I've seen tapes where she has made body contact with ICE officers and pushing them. I mean, there's a lot.
They charged January 6ers for like soft breezes, remember? Felony offenses because a water bottle was flying through the air, empty. You know, it's like, wow. If you, and we've talked about this a lot, this is pretty standard across law enforcement across the whole country. Get like a little bump or a bruise or a scrape, a cop just like, ow, that hurt a little bit. Assault on an officer, felonies. It's a huge problem, right, for a defendant. That's why you just kind of got to lay there and just get your ass beat if you don't want to get charged with crimes like that. So LaMonica elbowing people, there were J6ers who didn't get, unless you were Ray Epps, he didn't get charged with hardly anything, and he was shoving that big giant pole into cops and stuff like that. He doesn't get any charges, but everyone else does, and LaMonica is not above the law.
A lot of tapes out there. I mean, there's
in
numerous
a scuffle.
Tapes,
is it normal that people would make body contact, though, Mr.
Bottom
Holman?
line is, you say she has a right to do her oversight, but there's a right way to do it. Forcing yourself through officers to get in that facility is not the way to do it. We have many Congress visit our facilities. What she did was unprofessional.
Do you believe that she was a threat?
I believe she caused the facility to be unsafe. When ICE officers are being pulled off their duties to deal with a member of Congress who's forced away in the facility and puts her hands on an ICE officer is unprofessional. I think she crossed the line. Again, I'm not the prosecutor. I don't have to prove it in the court, but the video I saw shows her at fault.
If she was in some way dangerous, if she caused the facility to be unsafe, why would they ultimately let her in?
Because they have to. She's a congresswoman.
They didn't allow her in. If in that moment she forced her way in, then they dealt with it from then on. Look, the other stuff, and this is the same week where we're here in D.C. honoring the men and women of law enforcement who made the ultimate sacrifice. I went to Border Patrol Memorial. I went to the ICE Memorial.
But I just want to clarify something you said. She did go in, Mr. Holman. She did go in.
The men and women of law enforcement. The same week we honor the men and women of law enforcement, she's up there putting her hands on them. So she's being held accountable. She should be held.
But you acknowledge she did go into the facility. So why would she be let in?
Look, I don't.
If she was a danger.
Look, I wasn't there. I'm just telling you what I've learned through my sources and from the videotapes I saw that she forced her way in the facility. There's a difference between oversight responsibility, working, arranging with ICE to go do a safe and secure tour of a facility where criminals are locked up, criminals are walking the hallways, and forcing your way in the facility. It should have been done more professionally, and I'll let the courts decide if she's in violation of law. But the videos I saw, she could have been a hell of a lot more professional on that day.
And you believe the ICE agents were professional?
I believe so, yes.
Let me ask you about some other.
They're all standing outside there protecting the facility. They're not doing anything. The other people are coming upon them and causing the mayhem. And Tom Homan, I think, is just articulating what is obvious to most people who, I guess, aren't on MSNBC as news anchors, but there's a right way to enter and there's a wrong way to enter. When you break and enter, that's criminal because you're impeding, you're impairing, and you're assaulting. But if you're a congressperson and you just go through the proper mechanism and identify yourself appropriately, they'll let you in. And that's all that happened, right? There were two different incidents. One was the right way to enter. They let her in. One was a criminal activity for which she is now being prosecuted. And I don't know why this is so difficult for them to understand, because they told us that this was the January 6th standard. They said, you guys broke and entered. You went to the building, all those things. We played them video after video of cops tapping other cops on the shoulder and just waving people in. In our defense, that was the right way to enter, essentially, right? They didn't realize they were going to be let in and then charged with crimes because it was the people's house. The ICE facility is not the people's house. So there's some distinctions here. My point is, difficult for them to understand the distinction when it doesn't serve them politically, because that's the only way they operate. Now, President Trump came out and he talked about LaMonica, fullback McIver.
He's weaponizing with the arrest of a congresswoman, Democratic congresswoman.
Oh, give me a break. Did you see her? She was out of control.
Did you
those days are over. The days of woke, no, I didn't. The days of woke are over. That woman, I have no idea who she is. That woman was out of control. She was shoving federal agents. She was out of control. The days of that crap are over in this country. We're going to have law and order.
Mr. President, thank you very much. You campaigned on lowering the price of groceries. How can you justify cutting food assistance in this bill?
Let me just tell you, the cut is going to...
Yeah, so LaMonica, now criminally charged, rightfully so. We went through the full complaint. We'll see what happens and whether she puts up a fight, takes a plea, or something else happens. We'll be covering it. Thank you for joining us and subscribing as we do. All right, so good update over there with LaMonica. Now let's turn our attention over to this judge who's really something, I got to tell you. He is, of course, responding to the Supreme Court decision, and here is the latest on this one. A California judge appointed by Obama now denying the Supreme Court's order, essentially ignoring it, finding a clever way to do it. This judge is Judge Edward M. Chen, and he comes out of the Northern District of California. We've talked about Chen just earlier this week when he got obliterated 8-1 by the Supreme Court. And he's in this case right now, the judge presiding over it, Honorable Edward M. Chen from San Franciscoville, says National TPS Alliance, right, this is the Venezuelan illegal alien organization. Joe Biden said, you can all come here. We'll give you temporary status. Just enjoy your time in America. It's your country now. And Kristi Noem came in and said, guess what? The extension on TPS is now canceled. Judge Edward Chen said Kristi Noem can't do that, and that the cancellation of the extension of TPS is canceled, and basically all 350,000 people who were set to be afueted out of here can now stay. The Supreme Court came back down literally yesterday and said 8-0, Judge Edward Chen, you're wrong. You can't do this. If Joe Biden can do it with the stroke of a pen, Kristi Noem can do it with the stroke of a pen. The law is very clear. Plenty of discretion goes to the Secretary of Homeland Security. Almost no judicial review at all. So 8-1, the Supreme Court came back down and obliterated him. Now, this judge doesn't care, just like Judge Boasberg doesn't care, just like Judge Zenas doesn't care. And the Supreme Court, for whatever reason, has just been sitting there allowing all of this insubordination to occur on their watch. Talking to you, John Roberts. So here is what the Trump DOJ submitted back to this judge, right after the Supreme Court came back down and said, listen, Judge, you're dumb. 8-1, you lose. What was happening behind the scenes is this judge was ordering discovery and saying Trump had to basically give this NGO, some other organization, a bunch of information or else be held in contempt. So Trump, as soon as the Supreme Court came back down and said, you win, handily, even 2 liberals are agreeing with you. They submitted this to reconsider. They said, okay, Judge Chen, you lost. All right, we're not going to be doing discovery. We're not going to be keeping these people here. We won, so you're done, right? Here's what they said. All right, hey, Judge, guess what? We're now asking you to reconsider your prior ruling, which was wrong. Here's why. The rules say that we have to make a motion requesting that you reconsider if you lose. The moving party must show that we brought the motion and more. And we've done all that. Here they say, listen, according to the rules, we're following them. They say on April 25th, this is Trump's DOJ writing, Trump filed a motion to stop this district court's actions, which was the cancellation of TPS status, including the answer or other dispositive pleadings, discovery, and all other pending deadlines relating to this case. Okay. Trump appealed it to the Supreme Court, said, we're not doing discovery, we're not doing pleadings, we're not doing anything. On May 2nd, this court, Judge Chen, said, well, a stay of discovery pending appeal is not warranted, right? So while Trump is going to the Supreme Court, the illegal alien representatives who have their status canceled are now going to go and probe the Trump administration to get information from them. The judge is going to allow it to happen while everything should be paused because it's up on appeal. So then on May 9th, Judge Chen further ordered that Trump search documents using search terms that are proposed by the TPS Venezuelans and produce those documents by today, May 19th, which is yesterday from the date of this recording, right? So Trump says, the judge ordered them to give him a bunch of documents by the 19th. Supreme Court came out on the 19th, says judge is wrong. Trump says, Judge, you're wrong. You said we had to give you these things by the 19th. We're not going to do it because you're wrong. Writing. On May 19th, the same day that we owe you this stuff, the Supreme Court, Judge Chen, in an 8-1 decision, 8-1, Judge, looks bad for you, granted the government's application for a stay of your order. We won, you lost, 8-1. Pending the disposition of the appeal in the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit or a petition to the Supreme Court. Now, this stay from the Supreme Court reverses your order, Judge, that grants the motion to postpone the decision to delete the TPS designation, right? So they basically just said that Christie, they didn't reverse her. They just said, well, her decision to cancel it is just extended for another 18 months or whatever. So that it, in effect, is not canceled. Saying, as required by the rules, there's a material difference here, okay? The Supreme Court just came back down. It is in opposition to what you said we have to do. Specifically, Judge Chen, the Supreme Court has stayed this court's postponement order pending the appeal of the Ninth Circuit. So we need to go to the Ninth Circuit now. Now, additionally, our request should be granted because we have shown reasonable diligence in bringing this motion for reconsideration. We filed it immediately. The Supreme Court just came down. We're asking you to reconsider. It's not taking forever to do this. And we're right. So here, the government brings the motion literally on the same day that the Supreme Court ruled on the application for a stay. So all of your other demands that we do discovery and submit for, interrogatories or depots or whatever's coming up, all paused until the Ninth Circuit decides. Why? Because that's what the Supreme Court just ordered. We read it. Accordingly, the Trump DOJ respectfully requests the opportunity to file this motion so you can stop all of your prior orders because you lost. Pretty simple, right? We'll see where it goes, but not quite. Because here is what the gangbanger representatives are submitting. TPS Alliance, which are about 350,000, technically legal because Joe Biden let them in here legally, but we think that was illegal in spirit of the law. So we'll just call them illegals. Now, anyways, Kristi Noem is here. And this is what they say in response. So Kristi Noem and the DOJ just said, hey, these people are not from our country. Okay, so they're going out. And they respond. They say, hey, Judge Chen, guess what? Normally the Venezuelans would not normally respond to this without getting guidance from you. But this is not a normal situation, Judge, right? The Venezuelans. The court directed you to have Trump make limited productions of documents to us. Like you said, we are entitled to these documents, and you said they're due today. So the Venezuelans are saying like, it's today. The court set a deadline for the last production on May 27th. Now, incredibly, Trump has stated they will no longer comply with the court-ordered deadline, right? The Supreme Court just came back down and said, actually, you're stayed, you're paused. So they're not going to give us the materials. Now, setting aside, writes the Venezuelans, what appears to be a textbook example of contempt, like they want Chen to hold them in contempt, even though the Supreme Court just told Chen everything is stayed. We respectfully, the Venezuelans, request that no matter how the court rules on the question of leave, that the court promptly reaffirm that Trump must comply with today's deadline because the discovery order remains in effect, right? In other words, the Supreme Court stay only applies to the deportations and TPS status. It doesn't apply to the inquisition by this judge into the Trump administration. That wasn't stayed, says the Venezuelans, saying they have no justifications for disregarding this. You already ordered them to do it, and so they have to. The stay granted earlier today by the Supreme Court doesn't stop discovery and doesn't even talk about discovery in the order. In fact, the Supreme Court only granted a stay as to your March 31st order, which had postponed when the vacatur of Venezuela could take effect. So like the dates are all. Now, critically, the Supreme Court made clear that the stay is without prejudice to challenge two challenges by a variety of TPS holders who have brought this litigation. And that is true. They did say that. But what we interpret that to be was for a very specific subset of actions that were delineated in there. Judge Kagan even wrote those out, Form I-797, whatever they were, for very specific people. They can bring their claims individually. Now, defendants utterly fail, Trump says, they say Trump fails, to explain how an order that recognizing that this case can proceed on those specific claims entitles them to unilaterally refuse discovery. In fact, the fact the Supreme Court granted the stay without prejudice is proof that their arguments do not and cannot dispose of this action. So we ask the court to make Trump comply with today's deadlines submitted yesterday. Signed here by ACLU, Gangbang Lovers, Center for Immigration Law Policy, UCLA School of Law, Annalan Arlu Nanantham, and Emilu McLean, Michelle Cho, Amanda Young, Eva Britton, and Diana Sanchez, Jessica Cart-Bansel, Lauren Michael Wilfong, and Eric Crew. Illegal alien lovers fighting the Trump administration to keep them here no matter what. So what does the judge do with all of this? Says Trump must comply. The Supreme Court said, you're stayed. Judge Chen comes back, absolutely wild. He says the court orders the Venezuelans to file a response for the motion to leave for reconsideration. Right now, that was also on that same day. I think he might consider that their response. The parties shall be prepared to discuss the motion at a hearing that's scheduled in 9 days on May 29, 2025. Now, the court acknowledges that they did file a brief response that we just read, but this was only to call to the court's attention to a footnote in the motion which stated that Trump would not be producing certain documents that the court ordered be produced today. And let's see, did we miss that footnote in this filing? It's a pretty small filing here. I didn't see a footnote that we missed in this one, so it might have been another filing. But here is what they says. So Trump said, we're not going to give you any discovery. Now, to be clear, the court's discovery order requiring production today still stands. Okay, so Trump got that order yesterday. We don't know if they complied or not. Says defendants are expected to comply with that order unless and until the court rules otherwise. The Supreme Court's decision stayed the court's postponement order, but did not stay the litigation on the merits. And so we can do whatever we want. Defendants Trump risks being held in contempt of this court if you do not comply with your discovery order. Signed by Judge Edward Chen yesterday. So all of that now getting submitted, and it looks like Trump will be, actually, I can't tell. Let's do a refresh over here to see if anything hit the docket. Nothing hit. So, yeah, we don't know if Trump complied with that discovery as of yesterday, but as it stands, their latest update to the court was you're not getting it, okay? The Supreme Court stayed you. So you cannot continue your litigation against us and order discovery while the main issue is pending with the Ninth Circuit and ultimately with the Supreme Court of the United States. But Judge Chen, an Obama appointee who lives in San Franciscoville, is now going to be ordering Trump to comply with discovery or risk being held in contempt. So that might be the next step. Trump didn't give him the materials. Hold him in contempt, just like Boasberg is kind of trying to do, just like Judge Zenas is trying to do. Now, we've got some reaction to this. So the ACLU lovers, the Senator Van Hollens that are all out there, the Kilmar lovers, they're okay with wife beaters and human traffickers just fleeing around in our country with no rhyme or reason or any law and order at all. Senator Van Hollen got obliterated by Marco Rubio when asked about the immigration process, the USAID cuts, and the overall activities of the administration. And it was epic. Here's what it sounded like.
I have to tell you directly and personally that I regret voting for you for Secretary of State. I yield back.
May I respond?
You may sit.
Well, first of all, your regret for voting for me confirms I'm doing a good job, based on what I know.
Well, that's just a flippant statement, Mr. Secretary.
Can I respond, Mr. Chairman?
You may.
I didn't ask.
Senator, please let the Secretary have
I'd be happy to, but then I can respond to his.
Your time's up, Senator, and willfully used, I might add.
Well,
your remarks do not represent the view of this committee.
Well, Mr.
Secretary, please.
Well, I'd like to. I can't respond to everything he said because much of these are untrue, but I'll go through a few. First of all, I'm actually very proud of the work we've done with USAID. For example, I don't regret cutting $10 million for male circumcisions in Mozambique. I don't know how that makes us stronger and more prosperous as a nation. I don't regret psychosocial support services.
I raised Sudan, Mr. Secretary.
Can I respond,
Senator? Senator, I'd ask you to suspend. You had 7 straight minutes of
I chose to use my time that way, Mr. Chairman. That's my right to
Please
use my
suspend
time that way.
Secretary Rubio.
Well, I can go on. I mean, there's other things here. We spent $227,000 for Big Cat's YouTube channel from USAID. We spent $14 million for social cohesion in Mali, whatever the hell that means. So I can go on and on. I got the list here, and there's more. I didn't even bring the whole list. In the case of El Salvador, absolutely. Absolutely. We deported gang members, including the one you had a margarita with. Oh! And that guy is a human trafficker, and that guy is a gangbanger, and the evidence is going to be clear. In the days to come, you're going to see who you went to defend.
Senator,
I'm sorry,
please,
Mr. Chairman.
Secretary Rubio has the floor.
Mr. Chairman, he can't make unsubstantiated
Senator,
comments.
I did not have a margarita. I did not even take a sip of that salt. I don't even like tequila.
Like that.
Secretary Rubio has the floor. You had
Secretary
your time.
Rubio should take that testimony to the federal court
Senator,
of the United States because he hasn't done it under oath.
Here's another point, okay? There is a division in our government between the federal branch and the judicial branch. No judge in the judicial branch cannot tell me or the president how to conduct foreign policy. No judge can tell me how I have to outreach to a foreign partner or what I need to say to them. And if I do reach to that foreign partner and talk to them, I am under no obligation to share that with the judiciary branch. No. Just like a judge cannot order me to negotiate with a foreign minister of Russia, they cannot order me to negotiate with a foreign minister or the president of El Salvador. And if I did negotiate with them, which we have responded to them, and we've told them, we've had communications with the president of El Salvador. I am under no obligation, under our division of powers in this country, and to share with the judicial branch how I conduct the diplomacy of the United States. It would actually be counterproductive. If I started sharing with courts, or frankly, with the media, my conversations with foreign leaders and all of their details, no foreign leader would talk to me again, and we would break trust with them. So I have complied with every court order. What I won't comply with is an order to disclose what I'm saying and what we're talking about with a foreign leader, because then they won't talk to me. Diplomacy doesn't work that way. About the student visas, let me say this. I don't deport anybody, and I don't snatch anybody. The State Department does not have officers in the street snatching everybody. What I do is revoke visas. And it's very simple. A visa is not a right. It is a privilege. People apply for student visas to come into the United States and study. And if you tell me that you're coming to the United States to lead campus crusades, to take over libraries and try to burn down buildings and acts of violence, we're not going to give you a visa.
Is that what Ms. Ostorp
Leave your problems at home.
We're not going to give you a visa.
Is that what she did? Come on, Mr. Secretary.
And every single one of these cases, the factors are different.
Senator,
the bottom line is, if you're coming here to stir up trouble on our campuses, we will deny you a visa. And if you have a visa and we find you, we will revoke it. And we're going to do more. There are more coming. We're going to continue to revoke the visas of people who are here as guests and are disrupting our higher education facilities. People are paying money. These kids pay money to go to school, and they have to walk through a bunch of lunatics
to the
who are
tough
here on student
newspapers
visas.
disrupting the foreign policy of the United States.
I want to do more. I hope we can find more of these people.
Pathetic, Mr.
In fact,
Secretary.
the other day, some guys led a riot. I forgot what university it was, and I asked, please, can you find the arrest records of all the people that were arrested at that riot at that campus? Because if any of them have a visa, we're going to revoke it.
I feel so much safer when you lock up people like Ms. Osterg, Ms. Secretary.
We've had enough time on the subject. Thank you very much.
Senator Van Hollen, man, chill out, dude. You look stressed. Go have a margarita or something, okay? Call Kilmar. Tell him about your day. Kilmar, you're not going to believe this. Marco Rubio was so mean to me on there. I can't wait to have a nice little mojito with you there, Kilmar. So he just got obliterated by Rubio. What a beautiful sight to see. Rubio really catching that stride and that groove, and that margarita zinger was just perfect, because what Rubio is saying is absolutely true. America has interests. We don't have to just take people because liberals lecture us about it. No thanks. We got a different way to handle this now. Now, this one is also beautiful because what you can see here are three interesting folks in the Senate. You've got the very important Ron Johnson, who we appreciate a lot. Rand Paul, also one of the most MVPs out there. And we've got on this side, one of the worst, Senator Lankford, right? The same guy who Lankford, I think, tried to rig or wreck the election. Genuinely, I think that. He tried to take the border issue off the table in a bow-tied gift for the Democrats. And he delivered it for everybody. He's like, here, we'll just send bipartisan. Remember, they kept screaming bipartisan support. And it was a terrible solution. They were going to codify like 4,000 illegals coming in every single day, or whatever the numbers were. It had to hit a certain number, and then they cared. And look at this chart that Ron Johnson put up here, and he's going to hopefully make Lankford look at it. In fact, they should post it outside Lankford's office. You don't need to codify illegal immigration there, Senator. You just got to have some leadership in place, and this can happen on your chart too. So hopefully Lankford learned his lesson. I doubt he did, but let's listen to this.
Important the American people understand that for 4 years, the Biden administration, reinforced by the folks on the other side of the aisle, lied, bold-face, that President Biden didn't have the authority to secure the border. He wanted an open border. That's exactly what he got. Now, the question I have for you off this chart is, in his first term, took President Trump about 12 months to go from his peak of almost 5,000 encounters per day to a little over 500. You know, remain in Mexico, the agreements he had with the third countries, that type of thing. How could he do it so swiftly this time? This is literally a matter of months. In February is 418 encounters per day on average. In March is 355. And this is stunning success.
Amazing.
I just kind of want to get your reaction in terms of how he accomplished it, how you guys accomplished this.
You know, I would say, Senator, that the president used not only the laws that were already on the books and started enforcing them, he also made sure that he talked about it and messaged it. Throughout the campaign, he talked about the need for a secure border. What we need to remember constantly in this country is that the world listens to everything that we say and what our leaders say. And he told me specifically when he nominated me for this position, I don't want you just to go and run the Department of Homeland Security, secure the border, and make sure that our agencies are back on mission. I want you to tell the world what we're doing, because the only way they're going to stop coming to this country is if they know never to leave their home country. If they know that we're enforcing our laws, they will stop coming. And that's exactly what's happening. Because of our messaging, because of the fact that we have actively talked in Guatemala, in Honduras, in Mexico about don't come to the United States anymore illegally. There will be consequences. They have stayed there. In fact, we're showing now in the Darien Gap that it's reverse migration.
Weird, because didn't Kamala go down there and like lecture them? She's like, do not come to America. And they came over in like droves. How come it didn't work when she said it?
That people that got to Mexico never even made it to the border. Now they're turning around and going back home. When I was in Mexico visiting with the president there and with government leaders, she said specifically they think there could be 500 to 600,000 people that just stopped in Mexico that turned around that were never even countered that reached our border. I think that's why in March you saw less than 200 encounters a day, and it was a historic low for this country. in encounters, and it was because not only did he enforce the laws and show there would be consequences if you broke our laws, which is what our country was built on, he also made sure that we talked to the American people about why we were doing it, that it was for our safety and for our future, and that also to these other countries that it was no longer going to be the status quo of Joe Biden.
And of course, that's
Yeah, and hopefully Senator Langford was taking notes about everything she just said there, because he couldn't figure that out. He's like, no, we have to. And then if it hits like 5,000 a day, then it's an emergency. And then we can send resources down there. The whole thing was a joke and a total scam. And I hope that Langford is thrown out of his seat at some point for that. Now, here is more from Kristi Noem. I think we talked about that in the Delaney case. And to wrap things up here with Judge Chen, this is Trump sent over from Stephen Chung, who is just delivering the final message and the truth that hurts them so badly, right? The reasons why Judge Chen, the reason why a lot of these other courts are acting the way that they're acting is because they lost and they realize that their power structure is slipping away from them. Their billions of dollars that was funneled into their little causes, into their communities, into their constituencies, into their own nonprofits and all the things all coming to a close, which is why they are insurrecting via the judiciary. Trump says, we had to do this. We had to win, and shove it right back in their faces.
And we got the Olympics, and then we got through Johnny, who's the boss. He's a friend of mine. We got the World Cup. I got them both. And I said, man, I won't be president. I got the Olympics and the World Cup, and I won't be president. And they're going to forget that I got them. Nobody's going to mention it because, a little bit, that's the way life is. And then they rigged the election. And then I said, you know what I'll do? I'll run again, and I'll shove it up their ass.
Yeah! And he did!
And that's what I did. And all of a sudden, I then realized, I said, you know what? I got the Olympics, I got the World Cup, and I got the 250th. Look at the way this works out.
Beautiful.
So if they would have left us alone and wouldn't have cheated on the election and wouldn't have rigged it, I would have been retired right now. I would have been happily doing something else. And instead, they have me for 4 more years. Can you believe it? So it has.
That's right. We can believe it, Mr. President. We're happy that it's here. So we're going to continue to cover the Chen case. We're going to continue to cover all of the contempt cases and all of the lawfare. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right. So good stuff there from the president. Now let's wrap it up with this one from the mayor of Chicago. Yes. Here he is. The mayor of Chicago, now under investigation by the DOJ. Why? Because he's a racist, and he admitted such in this video that he publicized for all of us to watch and enjoy, where he said that the reason he hires so many blacks to run Chicago, meaning he just picks people based on skin color, which is not legal, is because we're planet Earth's most generous race, says the mayor of Chicago. Black people, the planet Earth's most generous race. Wow. Here's what he said. Now, Harmeet, of course, looking into this, might be a civil rights problem. Could you imagine if a white person said, well, the reason I hire so many black people to run white people to run Texas is because of what? This is the mayor of Chicago. And here is what Harmeet said in response. The mayor's troubling statements have led to us and our colleagues at the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission to open up an investigation. So stay tuned. So we're going to come back on that letter and see what is inside. Then we're going to see the mayor looking a little bit nervous now that this investigation has been opened into him and he's in so over his head. But here is what he said originally about, black generosity. Here is the mayor.
Some detractors that will push back on me and say, the only thing that the mayor talks about is the hiring of black people. No, what I'm saying is when you hire our people, we always look out for everybody else. We are the most generous people on the planet. I don't know too many cultures that have play cousins. That's how generous we are. We just make somebody a family member, right? This is how we are. And so Business and Economic Neighborhood Development, the deputy mayor is a black woman. Department of Planning and Development is a black woman. Infrastructure deputy mayor is a black woman. Chief Operations Officer is a black man. Budget director is a black woman. Senior advisor is a black man. And I'm laying that out because when you ask, how do we ensure that our people get a chance to grow their business?
No white people listed in that list because the black race is the most generous race on the planet, according to the mayor. Now, Harmeet obviously can't really talk about that type of stuff. So they posted this, says the Civil Rights Division has now opened an investigation of the employment practices of the city of Chicago. Because just imagine anybody else doing that in any other race. Pick anyone else, pick any race, pick somebody. That's why this person's an Asian person, an Asian man, an Asian woman, an Asian man, an Asian woman, or whatever it was, right? Not supposed to categorize people by their skin color, you racist mayor. The Civil Rights Division has opened an investigation. Here is what it looks like. They say, all right, they sent this letter over to the mayor, Brandon Johnson, saying the Department of Justice is opening an investigation to determine whether the city of Chicago is engaged in a pattern or practice of discrimination in violation of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It is the responsibility of the Attorney General of the United States to enforce the law with respect to government employers. The AG has delegated the authority to the Assistant AG of Civil Rights, which is now Harmeet. Title VII prohibits discrimination on the basis of race. See 42 U.S. Code Section 200E2. When the Attorney General has a reasonable cause to believe that a state or local government employer like Mayor Johnson is engaged in a pattern or practice of discrimination in violation of the law, it's the Attorney General's responsibility to take action to eliminate that violation, including seeking injunctive relief. Now, our investigation is based on information suggesting that you have made, Mayor, hiring decisions solely on the basis of race. In your remarks that you made yesterday at the Apostolic Church of God in Woodlawn, you highlighted the number of black officials in your administration. You went on to list each of these individuals, emphasizing their race. Even MSNBC wrote about this. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson slammed for only hiring black people in a viral speech. Title of that article, could he be more racist? Not really. He said, Business and Economic Neighborhood Development, Deputy Mayor, black woman. Department of Planning and Development, black woman. Infrastructure, Deputy Mayor, black woman. We heard him. Chief Operations, black man. Budget Director, black woman. Senior Advisor, black man. You then said that you were laying these positions out to ensure that our people get a chance to grow their business. Strange. Now, considering these remarks, says Harmeet Dillon, shout out to her, I have authorized an investigation to determine whether the city of Chicago is engaged in a pattern or practice of discrimination like you just delineated for us. If these kinds of hiring decisions are being made for top-level positions in your administration, then it begs the question whether such decisions are also being made for lower-level positions. Is this just a policy? Harmeet says, it's important to note that we have not reached any conclusions about the subject matter of this investigation. We just have questions. We intend to consider all relevant information and welcome your assistance in helping to identify what that might be. We would appreciate your cooperation in our investigation. And once you get this letter, please give us a call so we can set up a mutually agreeable date and time to discuss the parameters of this investigation, including the scope of the information that we're going to be seeking from you. Thank you for your cooperation. Harmeet Dillon, to the leader of Chicago and one of the most generous people on the planet, Mayor Johnson. Now, Mayor Johnson was asked about this today, and we also saw the Babylon Bee, the satire site, they reported that he denies all of this. Babylon Bee reports, Chicago mayor denies all of these allegations, okay? And he insists he has never, ever, not once, discriminated against white boy honky crackers out there. From the Babylon Bee. Never. Has no problems with white boys at all. which was pretty funny comment. But here's what actually he said when he was asked about this, looking like a deer in headlights.
Yesterday, you've had your back and forths with the president over the months, and I'm wondering if you could have forecasted this to be a focal point of his Department of Justice and what your initial reaction was to the investigation.
Well, I'm not surprised, right? I mean, this administration has, obviously has demonstrated a great deal of animus and disdain towards what is sensible about our country, and that's the diversity of our country. And I'm very proud of the fact that we have one of the most, if not the most diverse administration in the history of Chicago. What's clear is that not only does the Trump administration not respect the rule of law or what's sensible about our society, you would be hard pressed to find qualified individuals who are in his administration. As my administration reflects.
Because they're white? Is that what he's intimating? Because they're white, isn't it? They're not qualified in Trump's administration because they're white. And they're not as generous as he is.
The country reflects the city. His administration reflects the country club. And that is the biggest difference between.
That's what he's saying. He's saying, first of all, they are too white. So I think the Babylon Bee was actually mostly accurate. He's like, first of all, they're crackers in that White House. There's a bunch of country club cracker white boys up there.
Between what we're doing in Chicago and what is coming from the federal government, we're going to remain firm and steadfast in our commitment to ensure that the incredible diverse talent that we have within our administration that continues to lead us towards the safest, most affordable big city in America. We're not going to shy away or apologize for who we are.
Were you surprised?
No. Look.
You look surprised. All right, so he's going to go on and he's going to have a whole press conference on that. But wow, he actually said it. He didn't say honky white boy crackers, but he called them country club people. All right, so Babylon Bee is closer to reality than it's sometimes even hard to believe. Now, talking about other terrible stewards of government care, Fani Willis was caught out and about with her lover, Steve Sadow, who is a great defense attorney who is representing against Fani in the RICO cases, shared this one. Says, here's a note that I came across, says Steve Sadow, from Trump's lead defense attorney, right? Steve Sadow represented Trump in the RICO case in Fani's court, Judge Scott McAfee's court, Fani's case, saying Fulton County DA Willis and Wade are out and about. So much for Willis telling the court under oath that their personal relationship is over. And here was an image that was seen. Chris Carlisle posted this. He's in Atlanta, Georgia, and look who showed up. Fani and Nathan Wade. We've already seen them traveling around and out and about together. But here's what this person who took this photo caught. He says, Chris Carlisle says, I live in Atlanta. I pay taxes here in Fulton County, so I can feel like I can post this. He says, I'm sitting in a local restaurant 2 streets over from where I live yesterday. 3 SUVs pull up. They all have blue lights on. Okay, the Fani motorcade is in tow. Bodyguards get out. They've got earpieces, dark suits on. I was like, who is this? Even the governor's detail doesn't run that flashy, and I've done a lot of protection details, says this guy, Chris. All the guards secure the path. Big Fani gets out. She goes in to get her tacos. The lane stayed blocked for the entire hour that they're inside. Okay, so Big Fani and Nathan go in there. They probably just had an indictment session. And then they go, let's go get some tacos, baby. It's like, yeah. Let me get some cash under my mattress. Afterwards, we'll go get some Grey Goose and go on a cruise in the Bahamas. The lane stayed blocked for the entire hour because she's the biggest Fani in Georgia, and you should drive around her big booty. If they had not done all this, nobody would ever notice who she was, much less taking pictures. But that's what they want you to, like, she's Madam DA. 25 G's a table, dude. Is this worth the money, staff, and vehicles for a DA and her boyfriend lawyer, who she said the relationship was over, to go eat tacos at a Mexican restaurant? I have escorted federal cabinet members, Speaker of the House, and only used 2 vehicles. Fani uses 3. She's the biggest Fani in Georgia, man. Don't you understand this? This is a stupid waste of money. And here is the famous Fani and Nathan Wade just living lavish on Taco Tuesday, courtesy of Steve Sadow. So we'll see if there's any accountability for Fannie or for Johnson or for Tish. But as it stands, the investigation is underway. Harmeet Dillon, who's not white, but she's also not black, I don't think. So I don't know if she counts for Mayor Johnson's country club assessment or not. But he is absolutely racist, and we'll see what this investigation turns up. All right, so my friends, what a beautiful day it is. Very grateful that you're here and joining us. If you are just getting here, quick rundown on what we talked about today. We went through some updates on LaMonica McIver, a.k.a. the Belly, the fullback, who was taking out ICE agents, read through the criminal complaint against her, 2 counts of assault, 2 different victims. Saw a lot of reaction on this from everybody out there. Nancy Pelosi, even LaMonica herself, Hakeem Jeffries, and the rest of them. But Tom Homan says no one's above the law. Kristi Noem says the same. And Trump said she was out of control and there will be law and order in America. Then we talked about this judge, Edward Chen, who is out in California in San Franciscoville. And what he has sent to us is an order saying Trump must comply with discovery demands, even though the Supreme Court yesterday came back down 8-1 and said, your case is stayed, Chen. He says, I don't care. Give us this discovery or else risk being held in contempt of court. So it's like another one that's on the precipice. Same thing with Boasberg and Zenas. We saw Marco Rubio, who is just crushing it, obliterate Margarita Van Hollen, who loves illegal aliens like Kilmar. We saw Langford sit here and have to eat it and read these charts while Johnson talked to Kristi Noem. And we also got reaction from the president on why he ran again. Then we turned to Mayor Johnson out of Chicago and learned how he is the planet's most generous mayor. And he's black, obviously, most generous in the world. And he definitely has no problem with country club, white boy honky crackers at all. No problem at all. But now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. And let's see what you say about all of this. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for supporting our show. Thanks for subscribing if you haven't subscribed already. And thanks for sharing the show with a friend or family member so they can come and join us tomorrow when we're live again. And thank you again for sending in these comments. Let's see who is joining us. We got Donut clipping for us. Mock Schnell's bringing in new members. We got a bunch of new members coming in. We got Rhubarb conversations happening. It is Taco Tuesday, man. Even Fanny and Nathan are getting down on the tacos. Loose the dog, what's up? Hey, I want to apologize to everyone for the comments about crazy eyes. Lord, please forgive me. I know that you made them that way, and I should not say such things about your creation. I repent. From Loose the Dog. You know, we're seeing these Crazy Eyes Griswold's comparison with Cash. We're wondering if Crazy Eyes Griswold gave him something or something. Yeah, thank you, Loose the Dog. Lord, please forgive Loose the Dog, for she knows not what she does. Thank you, Lori Garza became a supporter. What's up, Lori Garza? Great to see you, Lori. Grab the members only stream from this morning. Heavy Johnny is on Locals. Says, hey, I just watched the Cash and Bongino interview and I had a couple of thoughts. We talked about this morning again. I woke up this morning and I was madder about the Cash Bongino interview than I was yesterday. He says, 1, they look scared. 2, the last 3 directors all said the FBI building is unsafe. Maybe the building is compromised. Yeah, we played a clip this morning where Cash sounds essentially like Christopher Wray and James Comey. You're like, this is weird. Why do they all say the same things, like verbatim? It's weird. Anyways, thank you, Heavy Johnny. You might be right. They didn't look like guys that we knew 6 months ago. I think it just is the most jarring feature of that whole interview. It just didn't look like the same dudes. We saw a lot of them. Didn't look like them. Hey, SD Gold Star Mom, what's up? SD Gold Star Mom. Figuring Out Locals made this video of the rhubarb patch for you this morning. The pic is of some rhubarb. Look at this rhubarb. SD Gold Star Mom, you're amazing. This looks awesome. This looks beautiful and peaceful and energetically powerful. Thank you for sharing it with us. Now, rhubarb, as we know, might kill you unless you're a professional like SD Gold Star Mom is. Thank you. We'll check that video out. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Thank you, SD Gold Star Mom. Hey, Jimbo Baggins says, here's some cash towards deleting my posts. New guys need to sit and watch, from Jimbo Baggins. Thank you, Jimbo Baggins. We appreciate you sending that in. Chubby's here. Chubby Stubby says, will Chen be the one to finally get SCOTUS to get off their backsides and actually do their jobs? Sadly, I'm going to be tempering my expectations. Yeah, and it's like the Supreme Court is sort of allowing this stuff to happen. Boasberg is continuing his contempt crap. Now Chen is too. We'll see what SCOTUS does. Harold Greer, what's up? Hey, Brad Pitt is here. Not Brad, Bread. Brett DePace is here. We got gun-clinging Palin is here. Bass, second word, hole is here. JV Man, and what's going on? Thank you, Harold Greer, for bringing in 5 new Membo friends. Will Crump says, how can anything from Chen be binding after an 8-1 loss? Well, because he's parsing through the decision. He's just saying, well, that doesn't apply to these other things. It only applied to the actual extension of TPS status. It doesn't apply to discovery or other litigation that is necessary, he's saying, for the circuit court to hear the case. So it's just clever parsing, and he's just finding a way to continue to make it hurt because he's a partisan judge. Doan says McIver should take misdemeanor assault if offered. Honestly, I think they would dismiss that. Like they could give her a diversion deal. Okay, just don't break the law for 6 months. Don't attack another ICE officer. We'll dismiss the charges against you. Like that's probably what they were talking about offering her at the beginning. I don't think she wants that. I think she wants to be convicted for political expediency. Like she's not going to go to jail, right? So she'll just raise a bunch of money. She'll be a Democrat leader. They'll probably put her on some committee somewhere. You know how it goes. Cardinal O'Flanagan, what's up, Cardinal? Says, Hakeem Jeffries to the nation, no one is above the law. Except Congress members, of course. Democrats only, though. Holding Democrats to the law is, according to Hakeem, is intimidation somehow. Yeah. And I thought Hakeem said he was going to do something about this, too. Like, I think he said that there was a red line when they were talking about charging her. Didn't he have a clip like, if they want to cross that line, they don't know what we're capable of or something? Like, okay, do something there, Hakeem. What? Object Class Keeter says, Dems claiming Trump crossed the line for the indictment of a sitting Congress member. Yeah, they're screeching about it all over the place. You know, they forgot they already crossed that line. Fannie tried to charge sitting senators with Trump and lawyers, probably in Arizona, Wisconsin, and Michigan, too. Yeah, cross the line? They indicted a former president 4 times. He was running for president again. They tried to throw him off the ballot based on the January 6th case for which he was not even convicted. Tried to throw him off the ballot. Wasn't convicted of anything. They're lunatics, obviously. And now they're going to screech about an assault that we all saw on camera. All right. What's up, Mock Schnell? Hey, hope the House does move forward with the removal proceedings, or at least censure, as McIver deserves no less than that. If any one of us had did that, we would still be in jail waiting for our arraignment. Oh, yeah. As I mentioned, you even like open a small breeze on a window and a small breeze hits a cop when they're conducting an arrest. You're in big trouble, man. Big trouble. So she's not above the law. Thank you for that, Mock Schnell. Hey, Fred Samuel, everyone call your congressman and demand that McIver gets expelled. Yeah, we haven't even seen them hardly talk about that, right? Have we seen Johnson say much on this? They're so focused on that big, beautiful bill. We haven't seen much on it, but thank you, Fred. Maybe that'll take some action. Hey, Mock Schnell, bringing in 20 new friends. Thank you, Mock Schnell, for doing this. Look who's coming in. Linda G, what's up? Daniel Gygax, Maria's here. She Wolfie, I'm Too Tweaked is here. We got Bill Barker, Beers and BS. What's up, Stephen Jr.? David DeRossier, we got Ashley S. Kim Stone, the DJ NA Tronic is here. Mitchell J. What's up, Paul Crandall? Rose Zingelman. We got Bill Minich, Patrick, Tony Ruba, Joe Sullivan, and Kevin Bodeman, all gifted members, courtesy of Mock Schnell. Thank you, Mock Schnell, for doing that. Leonard S. says, Jay Sixer spent months and years in prisons for doing less than LaMonica. And there is more evidence against LaMonica than there was against many J6ers. That's absolutely true. J6ers got in prison for text messages and Telegram groups, essentially. Many of them. Seditious conspiracy charges based on their Telegram text messages. Fred Samuel, what's up? Hopefully the mayor will testify against her. He didn't sound like it. He sounded like he was on Team LaMonica. Yeah. Hey, thank you, Fred. Kendall Links, you just got a text too? I just got a text from MacIver asking for a donation against the Trump persecution. I responded, hey, good for you. I hope you enjoy prison. I can't get off the Dem donation list. That's hilarious, Kendall Links. Thank you for the nice dono. And supporting us instead of MacIver. We appreciate that. That's hilarious, yeah. Good for you. I will do that from time to time, and I've been removed. Like somebody sent me one. I think I got like Hillary stuff. That was a while ago. But yeah, they're everywhere. Thanks for representing. Kendall Links. Good comment. What's up? Pinochet's helicopter tours. I hope we never forget the day a congresswoman stormed an ICE facility and beat a law enforcement officer to death with fire extinguishers and whipped others with horse reins. Did that happen? I'm trying to remember what that was. Did that happen? Pretty much. Close enough. Doan, what's up? Harmonica embodies the duplicity so common in Dems. Harmonica. Or maybe LaMonica embodies the duplicity so common in the Dems. Yeah, when she's out on the streets, man, she's got a totally different attitude when she shows up on CNN. That's not what we saw. We saw it. Don't try to sell it to us like it was something different. B.H. Williams, what's up? Citing this. None of the funds appropriated. A member of Congress. Nothing in this section may be construed to require prior notice or intent to enter for conducting oversight. So you don't have to provide notice. And that kind of makes sense because you don't want the facilities to like change everything. Oh crap, Congress is coming tomorrow. So stop beating them. But thanks for the details. Section 527. Scorpid Black Dragon. Flaming Black Dragon? Membo for 19 months. Thank you, Scorpid Black Dragon. Says, per Joe Tex, ain't gonna bump no more with big Fannie Willis. Per Joe in Texas, ain't gonna bump no more with big Fannie Willis. That's a good call. It's good for everybody. Life will be better. The Tree Godfather. What's up, The Tree Godfather? Thank you for joining us, The Tree Godfather. Grab the members only stream from this morning and stick around for the after party on the YouTubes now. Jennifer O'Connell says, hey, thanks to everyone who donated to us. There is a long way to go, but I've been able to give my daughter her room at my house. Jennifer saying, tremendous news, Jennifer. Jennifer shouting out, Jennifer, thanks for the dono to us. Glad to hear things are going well on your end. We got April Maid says, reminder, don't forget to vote in Pennsylvania. Lots of judges on the ballot. I saw that. There was low turnout or something. I think I saw Scott, what was his name? Having a brain flub at the moment. But yeah, I saw that on X. Somebody was saying turnout for Republicans is very low. So get out there if you're in Pennsylvania. Get out there. Don't. Thank you, April. Don't. Every Dem senator who voted for Marco regrets it because he now runs USAID. Senator Langley Margarita especially. Yeah. And that's Van Hollen. Senator Van Hollen is very CIA adjacent. I think his mother was CIA and his father was State Department. So maybe that's why he went down to have a margarita with Kilmar. But yeah, I think that's why, right? All the senators thought that Marco would be their USAID cover boy because he came from the Senate. He's not going to interrupt their grift because he's one of the good old boys, but he did. Now they're throwing a hissy fit and he needs a drink. Jen Crane, what's up, Jen? Will the EO of lowering prescription prices will happen? Us older people did lower prices. Sometime, could you explain the EO, please? Yeah, I think that was kind of a while back, right, Gene? That was the one. I think we did talk about it. And you remember. And that was Trump's like historic announcement, right? He said, this is going to be a big deal. I think we did a whole segment on that and read through it. You might just search for it on our channel. But yeah, that was the one where he was basically saying favored nation pricing, right? So that everybody, like drug manufacturers can't charge us an inflated price, like for Ozempic, charge $1,000 a month or whatever, and then go in Europe and charge $88 a month. In other words, we're subsidizing the rest of the world's prices. So I would imagine it's going to take some time for that to go into effect, right? I don't know if drug companies are just making those changes immediately or if they're going to have to be dragged to that. But I think we did a segment on that, Gene, so you might just want to search for that. Thanks for the dono. NY, what's up? Langford is a Koch brother production. Koch brother? Is that what it said? The Kochs live behind walls and want serf slave labors of illegals. Is that why Langford is so terrible? That sounds about right. Thank you, NY. Steele Manning says, I did not have margaritas with that woman. Man, Kilmar. Read my lips. No margaritas with Kilmars. Okay, we know you did, Bill. Yes, you did. You put that straw. We saw it. We know what you did there. Don't try to hide it. Thank you, Steele Manning. Hey, G-Men. G-Men has a comment on the most generous. He certainly seems very generous with his positions. He hands out a lot of positions. Thank you, G-Men. David D says, Comey, very rich, $20 million, left the Justice Department in 2003, then hired as a VP of several corporations. 2013, he was the VP at a bank, HSBC Bank, Hillary's bank of choice at that time. And these are Mexican money launderers as well, are going through those banks. That's amazing. Yeah, well, that's how they all do, right? And they get hired on as like experts and consultants, and they just get paid whatever they want. Yeah, it's pretty disgusting. Thank you, David D, for the nice dono. Steele Manning says, hey, so glad I left Chicago during COVID. Yeah, I can imagine that. Chicago seems like a pretty interesting place right now, especially if you're white, because he does not like you. Country club white people, honkies. Sandy, what's up? Fifth Circuit wrote 9 pages brutally destroying SCOTUS's behavior in the AARP case. We will never see another judicial opinion like this. It belongs in the history books. Here's what a taste of the opinion looks like. So thank you, Sandy. Maybe that's worth going through on the show. Thanks for flagging it for us. The Tree Godfather says, they don't hate racism. They just hate white people. They absolutely are anti-white because anti-whiteism is the dominant social morality of the West. That's why they put push white erasure in every form. I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think that they don't want, America to be America and to be predominantly white. And there's a lot of, I think, evidence for this, not only in the United States, but also in Europe, to sort of eliminate and water down the populations so that they are not their nation states anymore. And they can just be part of the global community filled with diversity. And nobody cares about American values or German values or English values or French values or any other country's values because we're all just one gigantic smorgasbord of globalism. No thanks. What's up, Doan? Harmeet is Sikh of East Indian heritage. I was pretty sure she was Indian, but I don't know if that counts as country club or not for Mayor Johnson's racism. How does he classify that? Because he said Trump's administration was filled with country club people. Is Harmeet a country club person? Is that only for white people? I don't know. Kellen Miller. Hey, Rob, use the Watcher Lodge Research Center for the first time. It's wonderful and so well organized. Use it, people. It's amazing. Yeah, we're working on that. We've been a little bit lax on the Lodge research updates because I've been filled with other activities, but that is clearing out. And so we're excited to start. If you haven't been to the Lodge yet, we got these great files at the Lodge, watcherlodge.com. But the one I wanted to do, I was looking for it today. I was like, why don't I have a file on Judge Chen at the Lodge? I was mad at myself. Where is this Judge Chen file? We don't have one. So I got to make one. So we're doing that, watcherlodge.com to check it out. Thank you, Kellen Miller. And the point of those is so that they're shareable, so that you can just share, like the Kilmar one, I think is the biggest, most robust, so everybody can see. Just share the docs. Thank you, Kellen. I appreciate it. Thanks for checking it out. John Hoyle says, if ICE had eliminated McIver for attacking them, would they face no charges as the precedent was set with Babbitt's elimination? Yeah, I think you could make that argument. I think you could make that argument that they were under attack I mean, first of all, I don't think that Ashley Babbitt should have been shot, so I don't think that was a justified shooting. But there was no physical contact between Ashley Babbitt and anybody else. Ashley Babbitt, as far as we know, didn't get a warning at all. So I don't think that they're exactly the same. Like MacGyver got tons of warnings. MacGyver was actually making physical contact with somebody. Ashley Babbitt didn't make any contact with anybody. And some random dude just shot her in the neck. And that was that. So I actually think that it would have been more justification to have self-defense when you're under physical attack than when the building, when the chamber's essentially empty and she's just walking, coming in. And they were aggressively going into the building. Don't get me wrong there. But was there, a reasonable belief in imminent death or something that justified the shoot? I think that they're different scenarios. So I'm not in favor of either in either incident, anybody being shot. We don't want people being shot, generally speaking. But I understand your point. I mean, they made that cop like a hero. They gave him, I think, 60 Minutes interviews and stuff. What was it, Lieutenant Byrd, the same guy who left his gun in the toilet? Yeah, that guy. Hey, Rob, Dan and Cash are in new roles under legal responsibilities and can't communicate things like they could publicly for many reasons. Protecting victims and criminal legal rights. Rob knows this as a criminal defense attorney. Or Ro Khanna. I think you're talking to me, Rob. Totally understand that. My only point is they did not sound like that 6 months ago. And in fact, there's a clip of Dan Bongino saying, don't let up on the Epstein stuff on his show. He's like, pay attention. They're lying to us. He's very aggressive on it. And then he gets into the position and he's just like, I read the file. Just take my word for it. We're like, the file that Christopher Wray just gave to you, did you conduct a new investigation or did you just look at the PDF file they emailed to you? Christopher Wray's like, hey, Cash and Dan, here's everything you need to know in this manila file. Here. And if you have any questions, just call me. It's like Epstein killed himself. January 6th had no confidential sources. Trump's assassins were lone actors. Oh, wow, okay, this is great. This is great. Amazing. Hey, thanks, Chris. Rob Enfield, what's up? Thank you, Rob, for becoming a membo. Pinochet's helicopter tour says, Ro Khanna wants to make Trump's drug company an executive order the law. I saw that. Ro Khanna is actually submitting legislation more so than the Republicans have. CF Rob says, white people make up 11% of the world's population. Who is the real minority? That's another good question too. Yeah, Pinochet. Yeah, when the U.S. Attorney General asks for a file from the Southern District of New York and doesn't get it immediately, that evidence is now fruit of the poisonous tree. You could have Bill G on film and he walks free. Yeah, it's like, I understand they're FBI agents now and they're in the position and they've got a responsibility to the institution. I get all of that. But these were the same guys who were telling us 6 months ago to not believe the FBI, right? Kind of a thing. And then maybe Dan is exactly right. But we just don't want to take his word for it. And he told us not to take anybody's word for it, to do an investigation into this. And so for him to come out and just say, I read the file. Okay, I know. Chris's file? Or what file did you read? It's like, all right. It's disappointing. Anyways, all right. So my friends, thank you so much for sending those in. Extremely nice and generous of you. Thank you for supporting our work here. Could not do any of this without you. So thanks for being here and a part of it. Of course, let's say hello to our friends on X. Then we're going to wrap up and do our after party. YouTube friends, if you're a membo, stick around for the after party because we mostly figured out how that works now. And are we streaming on X right now? We are. All right. What's up? Hey, Fred. The Johnny comment out there in the land of Congress. Thank you for that one. Says Johnny found the illegal alien due process. We read that one yesterday. B. Torn says it was all staged for the mayor's campaign in New Jersey. It got out of control. The mayor should have been charged, but wasn't. And now LaMonica was. Yeah, here's a wisdom from Kramer. Let's face it, without rules, there's chaos, no doubt. Hey, Community Corner, great to see you. Says, yeah, Joe and Kamala gave him $700 million to find the root cause. How'd that work out? It didn't. And this one This is a statement from Judge James Ho, is an incredible rebuke to the Supreme Court. Man, that looks good too. All right, so we got some other cases you guys are flagging for us. What's up to Will Chamberlain on that one? All right, cool. Judge Ho said something too. Amazing. So we'll maybe go through those tomorrow. Thank you for sending those. What's up to our friends on X? Great to see you over there. We appreciate you joining us. Now, my friends, we will leave it there for the day. We're going to head over to Locals, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We're also going to reboot the stream on YouTube for membos. So membos, come on back to the main channel homepage, click the refresh button in about 2 minutes or so, and then come join us for the members only live. And so X, great comments on X, Community Center, Guernica, and my friends, thank you for supporting all of our work here today. Okay, so that is where we're going to leave it on the day. Thank you to our amazing mods and meme smiths out there who mod the fort down for us and keep things nice and orderly. Our friends K-Bean, Donut Mind Me, Carrie B, Janek, Dog Digger, and Geegum Geegum, Just Rhonda, Elliot, Doc Master, and everybody else who helps keep this thing on track. We appreciate your help. Thanks for doing that and supporting us. We will leave it there for the day. We're going over to Locals and YouTube membos. Hit the refresh in about 2 minutes. Otherwise, my friends, thanks for being here. Happy Taco Tuesday. I hope that the rest of your evening is beautiful and pleasant, and that you join us back here tomorrow. Same place, same time to get into it again, because in order to do it appropriately and properly, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.